Hi, everybody. It is Monday, June 27th, 2016, and it's been a bit of a whirlwind the last few weeks. Um, Putting it mildly, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and it's super aggressive. The as in, I don't know, I was told today some not crazy numbers where like 90% of that type of cell were blasts, which is cancerous. Um, and so basically, I'll walk you through the timeline of what's been going on. I wanted to do this video blog to help me process all the stuff that's been happening and be able to let people know where things were at and how I was doing, and go from there. You'll notice I look a lot different. I shaved my beard off, and I did that just because it was sucking to eat in a hospital bed and getting crumbs all through my beard because you're like laid back and out of it and on drugs and shit. So chopped it off and back to that. And I'd also had been like purposefully leaning out a bunch this year, so I'm a little skinnier. Though right now I've lost some weight due to chemo and diet stuff as well. But that's okay. That's to be expected. Not too worried about that right now. But got bigger issues than maintaining body mass, although that is a big one from what the doctors tell me. So anyway, I'll kind of walk you through what happened. On June 6th, I was riding my motorcycle through Vancouver Island. And if you've never been, it's beautiful. You should go. Tofino is absolutely gorgeous. And I bought a new motorcycle last October, and I've been wanting to take it for a long ride. And I was riding cross country from Tofino, or across Vancouver Island from Tofino. And I had a greasy burger and started getting some weird belches, a little bit of pain in my side. And no big. Went and I rode another 700 miles on that day and the next day, and rode back to Seattle and crossed over to the Sunshine Coast and rode down that, which is also insanely beautiful in British Columbia. Had lunch at Medina, the best brunch spot on earth. Go during the week because otherwise it's a 2.5 hour wait. That's for many of my friends who we've tried to go and get in fight and have gotten in fights over the wait. Anyway, I rode home that night, and then by Thursday the 9th, a buddy of mine from Louisville was in town visiting, and we went to get fried chicken. And during it was just like all of a sudden I was like in wincing pain, and so I was like, okay, it's good that I called the doctor today. I get my annual physical done every year and get some other blood work done regularly. And so I had been in pretty good health and wasn't too concerned, but went ahead and called the doctor. Went in the next day. He got me in, and then they did blood work, and he was going to go home at 5. But he called me at 7 p.m. that night, and with basically the I'm sorry to call you at home, but these numbers are definitely serious, and we need to get you in to get checked out. So they kept the clinic open for me on Saturday and had me come in, and got all of the numbers, got all the research. Did a CT scan, checked it out. My liver and spleen were really big, pretty enlarged, and then my platelets were at like I think 35,000. 150,000-ish is considered the bottom end of normal. So very low. So the doctors were super concerned. I mean, I had ridden my motorcycle in to the appointment, and they were like, don't wreck on the way home or you will bleed out. So they were super, super concerned about it. And, but they didn't seem to think it was super acute at that point. So they had set me up with, but this is a general practitioner. So they're not, it's not their job to know these numbers. So he hooked me up with a hematologist right away. So by Monday, I knew it was cancer by Monday morning, Monday the 13th, but nobody really knew what. It could be something serious, could be something not. Nobody was freaking out. I was freaking out, but everybody else around me seemed pretty okay. And so we scheduled the appointment for Thursday the 16th, which is when I met with the hematologist. And they immediately just were like, asked symptoms. I told them. They looked at my blood numbers. He was like, let's do a bone marrow biopsy. And so they did the bone marrow biopsy, and which is the weirdest experience ever. I'll talk about that in another post sometime if people are curious. It basically feels like the entire contents of your leg goes swoop into a like alien suction cup machine in a tenth of a second. But anyway, also they had told me, by the next Tuesday they were going to meet with an oncology panel, and they'd have a bunch of doctors look at it, and all the experts would look and they'd know exactly what it was, and I'd know in a week. Well, the next day on Friday the 17th, I was out at brunch with a friend. And the doctor called and was like, we are admitting you right away. If you're driving, well, he actually started with, are you driving? And I said, no. Or I said, yes. And then I parked, but I basically just like hopped a curb because I knew it was bad by the Space Needle with my truck, parked on the curb. And then The doctor was like, "We need to admit you right away. Go home and get a few things, pack them up. You're going to the hospital." And I don't honestly know how long it'll be for. I mean, at this point, I think I'm dying. I think I've got like 2 weeks to live, and it's all over. And I'm like panic, say goodbye to the friend I had dropped off at the Space Needle in an absolute mess. Managed to drive home. Thankfully, Mercer, as usual, was an absolute traffic nightmare, because if I had been able to go faster than 5 miles an hour, I probably would have crashed my truck instead through the tears. I was definitely freaking the fuck out. Anyway, got home, got my stuff, went to the hospital. Becky drove me to the hospital. She was very composed and amazing. A couple of my friends came and helped keep an eye on us, which was wonderful. I don't know how that would have gone without them. And then it kind of continued into the next day. I had my first surgery, where I got this like sweet little port thing attached to me, so they can pump toxic chemicals into my blood. And that surgery was real scary. And then I immediately started on chemo. I was in bad shape. I mean, bad enough that the platelets were low enough that the surgeon didn't want to operate. They were giving me platelets constantly. My spleen was destroying the platelets so quickly that they couldn't give me enough to keep them. So they couldn't get the surgeons. So they ended up, but yet they needed to start me on chemo right away if I was going to survive. So they basically strapped a bunch of platelets to me and did a surgery that most people would have opted not to do. Let me tell you what is fucking terrifying is that going into that situation when you're already like loopy from the meds. Fentanyl is the worst thing in the world as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't very pleasant at all. So I was really terrified when that went down. Was convinced I was going to bleed out. Was really, really scared and losing my mind a bit. And anyway, so it all went fine. I mean, they asked how I was doing, and I said, I'm dying, right? And the doctor was like, "No, you're fine. It's all done." And they wheeled me back up to the room, and an hour later I was on chemo. Something called Rituxan, which is pretty crazy. It's made out of human anti-cancer antibodies grown in mice. Like, it didn't even exist a few years ago. Speaking of, vote for people who fund the sciences. For God's sake. You want to save lives? That's how you do it. Don't pray. Don't talk shit. Just vote for people who fund the sciences. Sorry, I've had a lot of people. I'm going to freak out now, but it drives me insane. Stop praying for me. Vote for it. Donate blood. Do those things. Those are the things that'll help. You can't help an individual. You can help a system. And anyway, sorry. I'm definitely going to be emotional in this thing sometimes. I'm scared shitless. Anyway, they wheeled me back up. They started the chemo. 5 days later, like, my pains were better in my side. You know, I'm still loopy as fuck from the drugs, but then they send me home. Like, my immune system has crashed, like, on purpose. All of this is totally normal. This is the expectation. And chemo basically is poison that they then give you a bunch of other stuff to keep you alive while they poison you and then bring you back from the dead, which it's crazy, but also really amazing. So that's where my week has been. I've been home for a couple days. Until today, I had been really, really out of it and freaking the fuck out. I still am, clearly. But I'm okay with that. This is back to normal. And for some reason today, I woke up with a slightly different feeling. Instead of crying and feeling helpless and like it was going to end and like this was all over, I woke up kind of feeling like it was time to start to fight. And so, yeah, I told my friend I felt like I was like getting ready to go to war with an angry God. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, but I'm fucking ready. So let's do it. Anyway, I will be posting these every couple days, maybe every day, maybe multiple times. If people want to know stuff, let me know. A large part of this was I don't want to have to tell everybody every time. My friends are important to me, and I will melt down if all I talk about is fucking cancer all the time. I want to hear about their lives. I want to hear that stuff. But I'm sure they want to know too. So I want to make sure that they're up to date as well. And I want my family and friends and everybody to know where I stand. So anyway, we'll have more of these. All right. Bye. Lots more, hopefully, by the way.